Okay, I'm here to talk about a project I've been call. It has been running under a few names. It's multiplex housing co-ops, or the uh, and it is a project to build a large number of scattered unit co-ops all over Toronto. So, what are nonprofit co-ops? A nonprofit housing co-op is a cooperative corporation that provides housing to its members. Okay, so it's all corporations are run by boards. In a co-op, the members elect the boards. In a typical co-op, also the members vote on the annual budget, which is what sets the housing charge, aka the rent. So the idea is that a co-op is very much a democratically organized, democratically controlled organization. So that's what it is and how they run. The corporation owns the buildings and the land, or effectively, and then provides housing to its members. So by being a member, you get access to an apartment typically, or a house, depends on how it's worked. All right. So that's how it, that's how it's structured. The reason you want to live in a housing co-op, this is actually the biggest reason people want to live in housing co-ops. Basically, this is the cost structure of all rental accommodation. This is how the cost structure works. You basically have a constant amount you pay for the mortgage, a gradually increasing amount you pay for operating costs, replacement reserves, and the money you have to save to keep the building in good repair. And the total is the total costs, which in a housing co-op is what the rent is. So the thing about a co-op is you only pay the costs. You're not paying the landlord. Right. So this is the nominal dollar version. And this is what it looks like in constant dollars. So, as you're basically, you're actually spending less on rent every year in real terms. So this is a really strong motivation to be in a co-op. Okay, the other main reason for housing co-ops is you control your own housing. As I said, like the board runs the co-op, the members elect the board, and the members vote on the budget, so they set their own housing charges. So the good news is you're in control. Now the bad news is you're in control. Like what happens in a co-op is your responsibility. You have like it's up to you that the co-op runs. This is a classic line. There was a book many years ago, one of the very early co-ops in Toronto, which was entitled "The Trouble with Co-ops," and this is the complete quote. The trouble with co-ops is people have to cooperate. They are not all sunshine and light, but they are pretty cool places. One of the classic problems is what I call self-slumlording, which is where you're basically you don't save money for repairs, so the place runs down. Like it's cheap rent, but eventually you go bust. Okay. And okay, so we're now doing scattered unit co-ops all over. This is the other reason we want to do this kind of building. The costs, and this is the cost of the city for different kinds of housing. So in the urban area, it costs this much, right? Like 14, 16. In the suburbs, it costs a lot more. Basically, because everything is spread out, everything is much more expensive. And this proposal basically is effectively going to increase the density in the suburbs and thus reduce the cost to the city of delivering services. Or more accurately, it's going to spread the cost of delivering the services over more people so that each person has to pay less, right? Because this is per household. So the idea here is, like more households will reduce that number. Okay, and this particular proposal is to build multiplexes in the suburbs. In particular, the city now permits fourplexes as of right everywhere. All of the residential areas now you can put up a fourplex or convert to a fourplex, and you do not need to get zoning permission. This drastically reduces the time and cost of doing stuff. If you have to get zoning, it's like years. And people come out of the woodwork and go, like all the NIMBYs show up and scream at you. If you don't have to do, you can tell them to go pound sand. My current thinking on this, there's a few other things. There's a lot of stuff going on in this project. One of the things here is that I am looking at a couple of significant things that I'm thinking about in terms of urban design and city building about this, as I'm looking at a design which has front balconies, so that there are people hang out in the front balconies, and there are a lot of eyes on the street. The safest neighborhood in Toronto is Little Italy. And the reason it's the safest neighborhood in Toronto is because of all the Italian grandmothers sitting on the front porches watching everything that goes on. I had friends who were getting their insurance. They got their insurance renewal. Like the insurance people were coming in. Oh, we're going to do an evaluation and see what your insurance rates were at. They were living in Little Italy. The insurance company did the evaluation of like how much was going on and stuff like that. Their insurance rates went down. Right? Okay. This this is Jane Jacobs, eyes on the street. Also, the current plan is no on-site parking. Parking lots down the end of the street. Right? This will reduce the number of cars on the street. If you have no parking, if there's no parking there, the car doesn't need to drive down the street. All right? I want to bring back ball hockey. Okay, and where are these new buildings? This is a map of all the properties in Toronto, and that's filtered by how narrow, like how big they are. In particular, it is all the properties between 9 meters and 20 meters in one direction and 30 to 60 meters in the other. Basically, these are all the properties which is reasonable to put a sixplex on or fourplex on. Sixplexes is the thing that was being talked about, but we're having problems with that. So as you can see, there are a fair number of these. There's like 230,000 properties. So there are places to do this. The other advantage of this, of course, is you're actually building without having to do land assembly, right? You don't have to buy more than one property that's adjacent. So you can't have somebody who says, I'm not going to sell and hold up the whole project. You're just buying one property and putting a building on it. Simplifies things a whole lot. Okay. This next bit is specifically designed for this audience. About that map. This is the code. This is actually Python using GeoPandas. So this is just getting the stuff, the utility function. Here's the magic. This is kind of the magic thing. It says we have created it created a database or a data structure that has the box surrounding it's the minimum. It's the minimum rectangular box that could surround the shape. So that gives you how big the, like the lot. Most lots are almost rectangular. Very few lots are completely rectangular. So this approximation is that, and that's what you. So we calculate, like the minimum is the frontage and the depth is the max, and then we do the check, and then we say, okay, this one's good or it's not. And this is the grab this is data. This is the properties data from the city. This is the open data. So grab the open data source, run through it all, like create the minimum rotated rectangle, and then apply clip frontage. And that gives you that. Okay. Okay, the project structure. There are a lot of moving parts to this project. It is complicated. Fundamentally, there's a co-op development co-op. So that's an organization that buys the land, contracts with the builders, does all of the development process. This is the developer. The developer and the members of this co-op are the people who are on the waiting list. So the people who are going to move into these buildings are the people who are controlling the organization that's actually building them. So this is, like co-ops are all about all co-ops are all about democratic control. There's a series of principles that all co-ops sign on to. They're called the Rochdale principles from the organization in the 1860s, something like that, in England, where co-ops were developed. So there's the co-op development and one or more housing co-ops. It'll probably start with one because we're building these up, but eventually it's going to get big and again a schism, and with luck there'll be just more and more and more of them. This is a slightly different way of developing co-ops. Most co-ops are big bang. You buy a building or buy the land and you build the co-op, and then you have a co-op. This is, we build a building, we build another building, we build another building, and so it's gradually getting bigger all the time, which is not true typically of co-ops. The other thing is that frankly, all of the co-ops in Toronto were basically built with government support, and the government stopped supporting it in the 90s. So they haven't been built. They're starting to get back into it now. We're gonna, in fact, this particular version of the project is actually a little bit on hold in the sense that I am looking at with my other, like in the organizations, to see if I can get some of the money from the $1.5 billion that the feds just announced a month or so ago, to build the first one of a co-op that looks like this. But it'll be different because it'll be subsidized, and the rent will be limited, and and the money will be coming. It's just a completely different organization. It'll be, in fact, in many respects, much simpler. But if that works, we will, at that point, we will have the experience of actually building these houses. So there'll be a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge gathering in that. Okay, in this plan, okay, like land banks. Basically, land banks is an organization that owns land that the co-ops are built on. So there's a land lease. So co-ops may not own land. Somebody else may own the land. The thing about a land bank is that organization is basically promising that land will be used for housing. It will not get released into the private market. probably at least one financial services co-op, maybe neighborhood heating, cooling co-ops. One of the things I found out was that if you're doing in-ground heating, cooling, it works, they work better at scale. So the theory would be drill some holes on this property and then run pipes to all the neighbors. You know, that actually might help solve the NIMBY problem. Hey, if we move in here, your heating costs will go down. Also, but how the parking down the end of the street is organized is you know, as I said, lots of moving parts, no real solutions yet. This is all just sort of floating around. Okay, financing, one of the major things. There are basically two financing requirements. In the short term, you have to buy the land and build the building, right? And there is an organization in town that is organized with community bonds. These are fixed rate, low interest bonds being sold to people who want to support whatever it is. So the idea is that we will sell these bonds to people who think co-ops are a good idea and are therefore willing to take a smaller interest rate. And there's an organization that's specifically designed to do that, and I have been in touch with them. Now, longer term, this is actually a bit of an invention in this project. The idea is to sell long-term bonds at a variable rate, whereas the rate is the current inflation rate plus the fixed premium. The theory here is that the co-op, the expectation is the members of the co-op are sufficiently diverse that they can effectively expect that their income will rise with inflation on average across the co-op. So so that's going to be so that they can afford to pick up the interest rate risk. And looking at, okay, so we got long amortization here period, but we have relatively short terms because these are going to be very odd bonds and they're not going to be particularly liquid. You're not going to be easy to sell, right? So in order to not get locked into having, having money that's just you're never going to be able to get to, we just every once in a while we'll roll over the bonds. So that if you want to get out, you just don't buy the new bond. The expectation is that this will be about 2% less, a little under 2% less than a market rate bond. At a straight, if the market rate for these bonds will be about 2% less, which the last time my co-op had renewed a mortgage, it was at 6%, and it was an interest rate pretty similar. The rates were pretty similar now. So we're looking at like borrowing money at like 4% instead of 6%. This will help. Okay, open questions. The major open question about the project is how many people will join up, because it's not subsidized, it's not cheap. I'm hoping, in fact, I do not yet have a good handle on what the construction costs of these buildings are. I'm expecting to come in a little more than what the high end of the market is at the moment, which is insane. In fact, the whole reason this project is possible because landlords are are charging insane rents. And answering this question is at the part of the survey sign-up site. More on that later. And there are significant open questions about regulatory issues. Everybody, like a few people said there's a complicated, nobody has yet said it's impossible. Nobody has yet said that I am violating the laws of thermodynamics or the criminal code. Okay, now. Now, let's see. The demo is, where is the demo hiding? Nope. We're gonna have to stop sharing, start sharing a different one.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to open this?
Yeah. Oops, not that one. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So,
No, there's two flavors. So this is the wrong one.
yeah, let me.
Sure. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So this is one of the things I've been working on here. I've been using you guys as guinea pigs and helpers on this. This is the current state of a site that's designed to say as a sign up for people. The theory is people will say, yes, I'm interested. Even, like, and there'll be a sign up sheet and there'll be a list basically. So they get on the list and they can't, which will in the future let them get onto the actual waiting list for the co-op. This is just a sign up sheet. So there's no commitment. When they actually get to the joining the co-op, there's a pretty serious commitment, because one of the things is, as I said, one of the things that I may or may not have said, one of the ways that co-ops finance themselves is with member loans. And so the thing is that the people who are going to be moving into these co-ops are going to have to come up with a fairly significant member loan. The original theory was about 5%. I'm currently thinking it's going to be like 4 or 8 months rent. So this is a so this is the so this is the landing page. This is this is just barely, like this is early, like there's lots of work to do here. This is like, this isn't even really working yet. On the other hand, it's working, given that the fact that I was planning, I promised to do this this presentation, is working more than it otherwise would be. Okay, so we have the actual sign up page. Okay, so here, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, no parking spots, 500 square feet. We're looking at, expected $2,200. The expected numbers are complete fabrication. It is just complete, like this is just invented out of completely whole cloth. This really isn't quite a demo yet, let alone, however, like you can do things like, actually, I need to do this first, don't I? No. Oh, didn't. All right. Trissa, what's your email? Oh, right. All right. Actually, do I know your name? Hmm? All right. All right. Whoops. All right. I also have to learn how to type. I was hoping it would actually just show up. One of the things is that the way this works, if I don't put something nice in there, nothing else works. And it doesn't give you nice. Okay, so, all right, so we changed the number of bedrooms. And we'll make it somewhat bigger. And yeah, so it one of the things it tells you, like what, as you change things, it'll tell you, like how much. So the idea is, this is the data that people, like will wind up on the sign up sheet so that people can, so we will know what kind of, like what kind of accommodation people want. Like this is market research. The other thing, of course, is where do you want to live? So this is the idea, is you click on this map and like, and it cycles through. So okay, so here currently it says we don't want to live here. I don't really want to live here. This would be okay. Oh yeah, I really want to live here. All right. So the idea is you'd fill out, like you'd fill out this, and that would be more market research data. And then we submit that, and it says go check your email. Anyways, I think given the hassle with this, I think, okay, an email is there. You click on a link that says you verify the email. This is the security. It assumes you're in control of your email. It sends you an email. You click on a link in the email. It says, okay, that person's is, and then puts them. That's when they get actually wind up on the list. It also drops you in a page that says these are the questions you answered, and let you edit, like, and then there's an edit button and stuff like that. So, but that's fundamentally it. Like there's a bunch of things that we went, oh, it should do this and it should do that, but that's basically the way it works.